Megyn Kelly breaks down the controversy surrounding Candace Owens, Bill Ackman, Israel, and Charlie Kirk. Tucker Carlson also had some statements that he made last night. A lot of people who are anti-Israel are coming out to say Charlie Kirk was also secretly moving in the direction of being anti-Israel. Okay? Now, I don't know the veracity of these claims. Do I believe that Charlie Kirk was annoyed by all of the pro-Israel advocates that were major donors to his organization? Absolutely. Do I believe that Charlie Kirk recognized that the landscape was shifting underneath his feet, especially as it pertains to Gen Z right-winger opinions on Israel, and he was trying to desperately manage that back and forth by highlighting anti-Israel Republicans such as Tucker Carlson or anti-Israel libertarians such as Dave Smith? Absolutely. Do I believe that the gray zone reporting is correct, especially as it pertains to how angry Zionist advocacy organizations got when they saw Charlie Kirk even offer any talking time to the likes of Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, even if it was from Charlie's own estimation for the greater good from his perspective, right? The idea that like there is ideological diversity within the right, that's a good thing for the right project, okay? For the right movement, for the conservative movement in this country. But he was very frustrated because he was a firm and committed supporter of Israel. That much is clear, okay? He was always a firm and committed supporter of Israel. No, he did not say they were ethnically cleansing Gaza. He said the famine was fake. He said the genocide is fake. He has always been antagonistic to the pro-Palestinian position. He said Palestine is not real. He's made jokes about how I used to often say, if you, to gay people, like if you were gay in Palestine, Hamas would throw you off a roof. Well, there are no roofs in Gaza anymore because those stupid Muslims decided to fuck with the Jews. So I know he said Israel's intentions were to ethnically cleanse, to try and ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip. That was immediately after October 7, and that was on the Patrick Bet-David show. Please, he said it to Patrick Bet-David, and I think he said it early on in 2023. His position after that was pretty obvious. You can recognize that Israel was going to ethnically cleanse the Gaza Strip and also simultaneously think that is a good thing, okay? Anyway, all of these things can be true at the same time. Charlie Kirk could have been incredibly annoyed for very good reason with the envoys of Israel that were donors of his that were demanding complete fealty in return for their investment. This is stuff that one could expect just by having one conversation or just by encountering one conversation with a pro-Israel person, okay? The fucking sheer arrogance, the sheer sense of entitlement, and demands for unconditional loyalty partnered up with the how dare yous, you are Hamas and you are anti-Semitic, is instant. Okay, it's instant. So all of those things are most likely true. Okay, the example I will use is of Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton and George W. Bush despised, on the record, despised Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel in general, like Israeli politicians in general. And yet, they obviously kept up the unconditional loyalty and support to Israel. So the notion that these people fucking hate how annoying Israeli envoys are is still true, just like what their actions in the direction of unlimited loyalty to Israel is also true. Okay? Having said that, I find myself in this unique predicament where on the one hand, I think that it's not totally and utterly insane to assume that Israel would engage in a high-profile assassination on U.S. soil even, okay? Like, that much is true. Israel has done increasingly more ridiculous things, Okay. They have no care or consideration for international law, or they feel unstoppable, right? And they are desperate right now because they are a global pariah. But even then, the thing that I take issue with is the notion that Charlie Kirk was getting cold feet on his support for Israel and was going to publicly turn on Israel. And that was going to create a faucet of anti-Israel sentiment amongst the Gen Z right. The reason why I take issue with that is twofold. One, Charlie Kirk does not command the attention of the Gen Z right in the ways that you think he does. He is not capable of hypnotizing them. Okay? And perhaps even more important than that is that Charlie Kirk was not going to sidestep the Trump administration. That is the most consequential aspect of this speculation. The notion that Charlie Kirk was going to sidestep Israel or go against Israel publicly is silly. And the reason why it's silly is because Charlie Kirk was not going to go against Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is the number one dick rider of Israel. Maybe number two after Joe Biden. Okay? There was no way that Charlie Kirk was going to come out and actively go against, no matter how much he hated or despised Israel's advocates that are close associates of his. He was never going to go against Donald Trump. And the evidence for that is Jeffrey Epstein. Charlie Kirk made a major deal out of Jeffrey Epstein leading up to the election and certainly after the election. And once the Jeffrey Epstein story put the crosshairs on Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk talked personally to Donald Trump and openly explained to his audience that he had gotten a boss call from Donald Trump and he was no longer going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. So while Charlie Kirk, when talking to Megyn Kelly, for example, openly expressed his frustration with the pro-Israel donors that were smearing him as an anti-Semite, there is still no evidence that he would have turned on Israel publicly because Donald Trump is not turning on Israel publicly. Okay? So there is totally a world where Charlie Kirk was trying to keep the loyalty of the anti-Israel right in an effort not to lose all of that audience to the likes of Nick Fuentes, someone he avoided deliberately, right? And in an effort to do so, he brought Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith on to Turning Point USA Conference. He brought Marjorie Taylor Greene on, or said he wanted to bring Marjorie Taylor Greene on. And this caused major panic amongst pro-Israel advocates. All of this is real, okay? And it's not even hidden because there were articles written about the discontent that they felt with Charlie Kirk in the aftermath of allowing these conversations to take place. There were Jewish publications, there were Israeli publications that wrote about Charlie Kirk and how menacing it was and how dangerous this was. Laura Loomer is a great example of this as well. Laura Loomer, who famously, a couple days prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination, put out a tweet saying Charlie Kirk is betraying MAGA. Charlie Kirk is betraying the movement and betraying Donald Trump after Donald Trump gave him a platform. All of that came very publicly in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk even allowing Tucker Carlson to speak. Okay? Do you understand? But once again, as Sina Tusi also points to, what's striking isn't the conspiracies, it's the scale. Candace Owens' video on Charlie Kirk and Israel from yesterday has 7+ million views. Forget the Beltway or legacy media. The grassroots conservative base is openly fracturing on Israel in a way unimaginable even a few months ago. Okay? They are lying about Charlie Kirk, and they're using this, like Candace Owens, Matt Gaetz, Tucker Carlson, and numerous other content creators, numerous other commentators, high-profile commentators that have a lot of influence, who have their ear to the ground. who obviously have to respond to the animosity that the base feels, are riding the anti-Israel sentiment. So much so that this is actually shifting the administration's priorities, in my opinion, away from the Trantifa shooter narratives back to having to deal with how this wasn't an Israeli operation that assassinated Charlie Kirk at all. Okay? Tucker Carlson said that Charlie Kirk told him at TPUSA Student Action Summit last July to highlight Epstein's connections to Mossad. Distinguishing between Netanyahu and the state of Israel, Carlson claimed that Kirk hated Netanyahu and his war against Gaza despite loving Israel. Roger Stone also confirmed it, so did Matt Gaetz. I have personal knowledge as to many of the claims Tucker is making here. They are 100% true. Roger Stone says, I have personal firsthand knowledge that everything Matt Gaetz and Tucker Carlson are saying is true because Charlie Kirk told me. Charlie was both a public and private advocate for my clemency when I was framed in the Russian collusion hoax. We became close and he provided me with spiritual advice during a crucial time in my life. I believe the questions surrounding his death remain unsolved. Mike Cernovich says, after what Megyn Kelly said, now what? Going to call her mentally ill too? Say she's using a death for clout? Call her obsessed? Now what? Propaganda bots. What we are seeing is truly a seismic shift amongst the right. Those who are close to the administration that obviously have to demonstrate unlimited loyalty to Trump and therefore unlimited loyalty to Israel. Those who also personally love Israel, okay, are saying all of these claims are fabricated. They're made up. Okay, the truth in this situation is somewhere in the middle. But it is obvious to me that the administration people are actually losing the information war. Do you understand? And the reason why the administration people are losing the information war, like Laura Loomer or Ted Cruz or any number of different people, is because Israel and Israel's opinion, the public opinion on Israel, is lower than dirt. It's shit from the butt. Okay? It's fucking over. You can do as many polls as you want. You can conduct as many polls as you want, but it is ridiculous to assume that things have not shifted in a dramatic fashion. The things that I am seeing in the aftermath of a political assassination of a high-profile figure that they're hailing as Martin Luther King Jr., but for white folk, I never would have expected from the right. I never, ever in a million years would have expected this kind of narrative framing from the right when the opportunity presented itself for them to perfectly capture the attention and go along with the administration's wishes and never bring up Israel whatsoever, and instead focus on the Trantifa narratives. Okay? But once again, what's interesting about this is, and I want to know if there is, does anyone have the old Laura Loomer post? They keep presenting it. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. I don't ever want to hear Charlie Kirk claim he's pro-Trump ever again. After this weekend, I'd say he has revealed himself as political opportunist, and I have had a front row seat to witness the mental gymnastics these last 10 years. Lately, Charlie has decided to behave like a charlatan, claiming to be pro-Trump one day while he stabs Trump in the backs the next. TPUSA was only able to thrive thanks to the generosity of President Trump. She said this after the Turning Point USA conference had a bunch of high-profile speakers, such as Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith, that were able to speak out against the state of Israel and its genocide. Okay? So the discontent from the pro-Israel MAGA side wasn't even hidden. Laura Loomer is, unfortunately, a moral compass for this administration. It sounds insane to present someone who once famously got banned off of every application, including the goddamn weather app, basically, for being so Islamophobic. A person who tried to start an ISIS fan club at her college campus and got expelled for doing so. That person has the administration's ear, okay? That person has the administration's ear. She's been able to successfully revoke visas, for example. So looking to Laura Loomer at times like this is because she is so because she's so crazy and has no has no interest in like stopping herself from coming across as demented, she'll just openly reveal her position and the position of many others. Okay? Laura Loomer has been able to successfully get a bunch of federal people fired. Laura Loomer was able to get Marco Rubio to revoke medical visas to Palestinians that were paid for, their travel and their medical expenses that were paid for through charitable contributions, even including people in this community. As a matter of fact, our contributions helped transport people from Gaza to the United States of America to get medical aid. Laura Loomer was able to stop that process. So just remember that. Just simply saying she's loony, Laura Looney, betrays the amount of influence that she has over the administration. But yes, let's see what Tucker Carlson had to say, and then we'll see what Ted Cruz had to respond to it with.
He did not like Bibi Netanyahu, and he said that to me many times, and he said it to people around him many times. He felt that Bibi Netanyahu was a very destructive force. He was appalled by what was happening in Gaza. He was, above all, resentful that he believed Netanyahu was using the United States to prosecute his wars for the benefit of his country, and that it was shameful and embarrassing and bad for the United States, and he resented it. Didn't hate Netanyahu. He wasn't out there with a placard saying that, but he certainly expressed that to me and a lot of other people. And there's no question that Bibi's defenders on the internet will call me a liar or a kook, but that's a fact. And enough text messages exist that I think it can probably be verified in pretty short order. Not that it needs to be, because that is true. Shortly after that speech, there was a very intense attack on Charlie, and to some extent on me, not that I really noticed. But on him, I have no donors. He had $100 million worth of donors. And so, because he was involved in a different project from just yapping on the internet, which is what I do for a living, he was dependent to a great extent on his donors, of course. It's a nonprofit. And they went after him and tormented him. Not all, of course. Many were supportive, but the ones who were offended by my speech, and there was a small, very intense group who were, tormented Charlie Kirk until the day he died.
Ted Cruz responded to this and said, "I'm getting really tired of Tucker and his cronies falsely claiming Charlie agreed with me that Israel's a terrible and the problem in America is all the damn Jews. I knew Charlie well, and indeed, the very last conversation we had was how deeply concerned he was about the rising toxic wave of anti-Semitism on the right." You want to know something crazy? I believe that too. Okay? Because in many respects, and I think this is because I understand Charlie Kirk's position and the Turning Point USA's position on this, he was seeing himself as the connective tissue that would hold together all of the different right flanks, including anti-Israel right-wingers and pro-Israel right-wingers. So this actually corresponds to much older conversations that I had in private with Charlie Kirk, all the way from 2017. Not sure if he actually had changed his perspective or not on this stuff, but like there was a time and place where it was very obvious that he was worried about Nick Fuentes gaining prominence. Okay? Now, do I think that this was because he was like a person who deeply resented anti-Semitism? No, fuck no. Okay? It was because he understood the importance of maintaining some pro-Israel support at a time when the attitude was shifting. So when he had this conversation with Ted Cruz, I'm certain that this was a genuine concern, but it wasn't a genuine concern about like anti-Semitism. It was a genuine concern about the like losing out market share to the likes of Nick Fuentes. Do you understand? It was about losing the conversation completely to anti-Israel forces. Is this right-wing sectarianism? Lamau Charlie is the prophet. It's crazy how much contention there is around Kirk's worldview and standing, considering it's very thoroughly documented. It feels like a bunch of people competing to absorb his audience and evoking his legacy to legitimize their own perspective. Absolutely. You are 100% correct. That's precisely the reason why Nick Fuentes, who is the greatest example of this, went from pursuing Charlie, hunting Charlie, all the way down to now celebrating his life and his accomplishments and talking about how much he actually respected him and how much he revered him. It's all for market share. It's also partially the reason why Nick Fuentes, I believe, is not even entertaining the narratives that Israel was somehow responsible for the death of Charlie Kirk, because that kind of misinformation, especially for like any kind of misinformation that you could somehow tie back to Jews that has any sort of fucking relevance in the broader audiences, will always be weaponized by anti-Semites. So it's shocking. It's shocking that he's not using this right now. You know what I mean? Not to say the suspicions of Charlie Kirk's assassination being brought back to Israel would be always anti-Semitic, of course. That's not even what I'm saying, okay? The reason why he is desperately trying to move the attention back to the left is because he understands that he has a real opportunity. He has a real opportunity to try to eat away at Charlie Kirk's market share and become the new face of the Gen Z. Forgive me for being a bit tired of the right will succumb to soon to infighting narrative after like half a dozen tries over the past few years. You usually don't follow that narrative. What has changed here? I don't believe the right is going to succumb to infighting on this issue. Because in order for them to succumb to infighting on this issue, they would have to be sincere and committed to an anti-Zionist position. For many people on the right, I would say their sincere anti-Israel position oftentimes comes from anti-Semitism. For many others, their anti-Israel position is simply a response to the market moving on and anti-Israel sentiments growing. It's a way to capture market share. It's a cynical way to do it. It's a self-interested way of doing it. Okay? And if there is no real, genuine, firm commitment to anti-Zionism, okay, an anti-Israel sentiment, they'll just discard it in a moment's notice in order to in order to gain prominence in the right. Grifting, okay? Getting real tired of Tucker. So let's hear what Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson had to speak on. Oops.
I think it's fair to say he was the kindest. I mean, for real, and in private too. Even people he was really mad at, he would always say, "Well, I understand where that person's coming from." It's like, wow, his decency was a challenge to me, who struggles to be that. Why was that so offensive to people?
Because it was power. It's so much more powerful, frankly, than negativity and anger.
Yeah.
It's infectious. It's a contagion. It's like a magnet for people, whether they like him or not. They're drawn to him, and he was converting people. So he was a huge threat. That's really, like, I've been asking myself this question a lot over the past week. Let's take the accused shooter in this case.
Yes.
And let's say, okay, it was motivated exactly as the authorities say, and he thought Charlie was, quote, too hateful. And this is a guy who's into furries, and he's into trannies, and he's living with one, and all the things. Why would Charlie have been targeted by this guy for that? Why would it be Charlie? You say all the same things. I say all the same things. Most of the people in our space and in conservative or independent media say those things. Why? Why Charlie? And sadly, I think it's this factor. It's this magnetism from him, this positivity, this aura, like that, this angel-like aura around him that was so incredibly threatening, way more threatening than the rest of us, because it was powerful and it was winning people over. It was converting people at a rapid rate, and not just any people, but young people. The people who had never been converted before, the people for whom people who talk like you and talk like me had never even tried. They weren't even players on the field. They were seeded in the whole battle. And he said, no, we're not seeding them. I'm going to start at 18 to speaking to them in a way that they can hear and understand me. And I'm going to practice it. For the past 13 years, he practiced. He went out campus after campus. In the beginning, he wasn't as good as he was in the end. He was good, but he wasn't as good. And so it was a skill he developed over time that made him more and more threatening, more and more effective. And you look at the numbers just in the presidential election. It's not an overstatement to say that Donald Trump has Charlie to thank for his election in November 2024, swinging the youth vote by 9 points.
Yeah.
We've never seen anything like it in the past 100 years. You don't swing the youth vote toward a Republican. Nothing in modern presidential politics. So he was a really integral, hugely important player, even though he was so.
Once again, if Charlie Kirk was this impactful in changing the minds of the youth, then the Gen Z attitude towards Trump would not have swung in the opposite direction in the first 6, 7, 8 months of the presidency. Okay? Charlie Kirk was still around to see the attitude shift dramatically back in opposition against Donald Trump. So my point always is he certainly played a role, especially on TikTok. He got an algorithmic boost on TikTok because TikTok and the Chinese government wanted a stay of execution at a time when they were threatening a ban. They gambled. They offered Donald Trump this fantastic opportunity to be in front of as many young people as possible, and that certainly played a role. Having said that, however, these are still very much systemic forces at play. The resentment that the youth felt towards the Democrats were not born out of Charlie Kirk's acumen, his political acumen, his SJW slam dunk compilations. That's not the reason. It would be nowhere near as successful if the Democrats were seen as truly invested in bettering Gen Z's future, truly invested in improving people's material conditions. They were not. And Donald Trump was seen as an alternative to the people who were looking at these institutions and recognizing that these institutions don't help them. It's that simple.
So understated and projected zero ego. So you didn't see him like that. He didn't have sort of the swagger of that in most of his public appearances. He was quick to subjugate himself to whomever he was talking to. But he was way more important than he ever let on. And I think that's why he was perceived as such a threat. That's why him saying the things others would say carried an extra layer of threat, yet both to this shooter and to Charlie's many detractors. And I just want to add as a period to this, as a footnote, I guess, to this, Tucker, you have a lot of it too. And it is the reason why Charlie is not the only one who's been threatened or was threatened to cut ties with you or not platform you. I too have gotten that, especially since you've been more outspoken on Israel. And
wow, shocking. I can't believe it. Even if you sidestep a little bit from full tilt loyalty to Israel, all of the Israel dick riders will come after you and yell at you and call you a fucking anti-Semite. Who could have predicted that? Who said early on in the month of October in 2023 that a big part of the reason why a lot of people were going to turn on Israel was because of the rapacious, relentless, arrogant nature of those who were doing advocacy for Israel, the entitled attitudes that they openly demonstrated, the how dare yous, the you're an anti-Semites. This kind of shit pisses off Americans, okay? I said it over and over again. This is repugnant to people. Even if someone were to be kind of in favor of Israel or were afraid. Oh, I forgot. You were the first one to have a hot take on Israel. Is that how I said? Is that what I said? I'm actually describing an incredibly obvious thing that I pointed to after Megyn Kelly's own experiences and own recollection, making fun of Megyn Kelly for being too stupid to realize that until, 22 months into Israel's ongoing genocide. Do you not get that? I'm saying it's the most obvious thing on the planet that Americans were going to get frustrated by. The constant fucking blood libel accusations, anti-Semitism accusations, and the constant attempts to fucking deplatform people for expressing their discontent with this seemingly unlimited loyalty to that the administration has to fucking Israel, whether it be under the auspices of the Democrats or the Republicans under Donald Trump. That's it. I said over and over again that the institutional control that Israel advocacy organizations that masquerade as Jewish advocacy organizations, the institutional control that they have over declaring people public enemies and demanding they get deplatformed was going to be fucking annoying for people. And they're so horny to control messaging discipline that they won't ever let anyone sidestep away. even remotely question Israel at all, while simultaneously speaking from the other side of their mouths and being like, of course you could criticize Israel. You know, of course you could criticize Israel. But if you do, you're a fucking anti-Semite. And also, who knows what we'll do to you. That's it. And this is not, this is bipartisan, okay? This is fucking bipartisan. It's a total bipartisan situation. There is a real crisis with the ways in which a lot of Americans in powerful positions have identified Israel as an incredibly important asset to American State Department interests, okay? It's wrong, but it doesn't matter. And there are plenty of people who have been primed and socially conditioned into believing that as well, regardless of how liberal or progressive they may present themselves as. That much is also true. I think we here in this broadcast are fairly familiar with a figure that I was closely associated with, that I had a podcast with, who, once again, has never let go of an unlimited vengeance quest that he has been on, to a degree where it just is so unsustainable, so insane, so unstable that he's like ruining his own fucking career, ruining whatever goodwill that he had cultivated over an extended period of time on YouTube, throwing that all aside because I dared to tell him, hey man, you're coming across a little bit too much like you're pro-Israel here by likening Jewish Voice for Peace to capos, Nazi collaborators, calling them tokens, or crying about how fearful you are that someone is saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That was 2 fucking years ago. Okay? Some people are so primed and so unable to let go of this association that they've designed for themselves that they make it their life's mission to fucking to destroy anyone who has ever spoken out against Israel. It's ridiculous. It's completely fucking ridiculous.
Couldn't care less the amount of pressure they put on. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. This is madness. Why would you want to silence such a powerful, important voice just because you disagree with them on one subject, one on which we've all watched you sincerely evolve as you grapple with principles you've been
Nick simply respected that Charlie would go into large crowds and preach the name of Jesus. You can still respect him but not like him. He never liked him because of Charlie's disposition towards Israel. It's that simple. He doesn't have some nefarious ulterior motive like people seem to want to think. Dog, he literally was like, I'm fucking your baby, Turning Point USA. I'm infiltrating your organization. He called him Satan's spawn. Just think for a brief moment. I'm obviously an ideological opponent to Charlie Kirk. I'm a leftist. I'm a socialist. I'm radical, right? Or at least that's the way that people want to present me as on the right. If I were to say a fraction of the things that Nick Fuentes has said about Charlie Kirk, how many of those compilations would be circulating online right now? Fox News would be calling for the death penalty for me. They would be saying like, Hassan killed Charlie Kirk. It's obvious. The fuck are you talking about? People can take what you say out of context too. Come on, dude. People do take what I say out of context all the fucking time. And I'm sure that happens to Nick Fuentes as well. But like, let's be real. He's pretty open about his opinions on this shit. I mean, you're talking about a fucking Holocaust denier who was directly asked, like, do you think Hitler is a bad guy? And he was like, oh, I'm neutral on Hitler. Like, what are we talking about? And also, he has spent very little time. I mean, he spent every waking moment he can to try to fucking blame me for this anyway. When once again, Charlie Kirk did not fuck with Nick Fuentes, did not want to be around Nick Fuentes for a multitude of different reasons, right? I'm sure that part of that was because he was fearful that he would lose his audience to Nick Fuentes, okay? He would lose his audience to the anti-Semitic, anti-Israel right flank, for sure, for fucking sure, okay? But the other reason why is because Nick Fuentes pursued him endlessly, stalked him fucking endlessly. His fan base stalked him endlessly, okay? And harassed him endlessly. He didn't have this opinion over someone like myself. And yet Nick Fuentes is still turning around and saying, I'm responsible for his death. Why do you think he's doing that? Because he wants Charlie Kirk's audience. And he knows he has to venerate and show respect to Charlie after years and years of shitting on him. It doesn't matter. I don't know why he's coming at you. I'll say that. But if you listen to what he actually says, it makes sense. People just want to meme and compartmentalize instead of being open-minded. Fuentes, of all people, isn't even blaming Jews for Kirk. Oh, man, I'm so glad that the neo-Nazi has decided not to blame the Jews on this instance. I wonder why. Perhaps it's because he has a higher ambition of becoming a person of notoriety. Okay? Perhaps there is a higher ambition there for Nick, a career ambition there for Nick. That's it. And he's using the opportunity in the spotlight very well, if I do say so myself.
Espousing for years, like America First, like what's happening to Christians, like what's best for us and our kids here. How do I keep them safe? That's my number one priority. And I've been just absolutely disgusted and recoiled from people who have tried to pressure me on it. It, of course, never happened.
Yeah, ask Nick Fuentes fans why the ADL has put the beat on me since October 7 and not on him. ADL used to come after Nick Fuentes all the fucking time. Why is it that when push came to shove and it actually became an issue of importance, America's unlimited loyalty to Israel was finally being called into question, the ADL notoriously dropped all of its coverage of Nick Fuentes and focused on me? Why is it that Jonathan Greenblatt goes on fucking CNN every goddamn night and tackles someone such as myself? Nick Fuentes can turn around and say, oh, Hassan loves the Jews. Hassan loves the state of Israel, or whatever the fuck he wants to say. And there is truth to that. I have no issue with Jewish people. I'm not a fucking anti-Semite. But that is a far graver threat, at least in the eyes of the ADL, to be someone who is not an anti-Semite, to be someone who actually combats anti-Semitism while simultaneously taking an anti-fascist position against the state of Israel and Zionism in general. Anti-Zionism, not anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism is the real problem for the ADL. And that much is fucking clear.
But I know from speaking to Charlie, he felt it too. You've heard it from Charlie that he felt, and there is a layer here of nefarious pressure to have certain narratives go only one way.
Yes.
That must be called out and must be fought.
Well, I should have said in my open that when Charlie was denounced as anti-Semitic and, quote, dangerous by the American Jewish Committee, you were too. That was a press. I don't know if you've ever even seen it.
The other thing that I always find so funny is like with the noticers, right? Like they remind me of the fucking incels that think they're making this like brave position where they say like women want to fuck hot dudes and they don't want to fuck dudes that are not physically attractive. This is not a brave position, dumbass. Okay. And the same goes for people who are like, noticing. Wow, there's a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood. Wow, what a fucking revelation, dude. It's the additional things that you add on to that is the fucking problem here. Okay. Like, the fuck are you talking about? Oh, we've noticed it. Ooh, lots of Jewish people in Hollywood. I'm noticing. You're a fucking idiot. That's not true at all. I've seen plenty of ugly motherfuckers being married. I know. I'm just saying that, yes, physically attractive men have a easier go at it than physically unattractive men do. That's it. It's not like a fucking incredible revelation. That's my point. Unfortunately, they're going to put you in an edit, big bro. I mean, what? I'm going to get mogged? Is that? They're going to put me in a fucking mog edit? Here. Who are you mogging? I mog you. I am the mogger. I am the one who mogs.
And I just remember when I read that at the time thinking, okay, these are like two of the most pro-Israel, basically pro-Israel people like on the internet. I don't understand. So maybe we should have this offline, but let's just have it now. I don't get that. Why would you attack? There are definitely people who hate Israel who are not anti-Semites. There are people who hate Israel who are anti-Semites. There's a whole range. And then there are like people who have like, religious reasons for wanting to blow up Israel. Those are all threats. Why would they be attacking you and Charlie? And honestly, I feel like me. I mean, what is that? Why attack people who are pretty reasonable, who don't want to get into a fight on the topic, who just want to like have their country thrive? Why denounce them as dangerous anti-Semites? What is that?
And let me just underscore for your audience what I had said. I mean, the sum total of what I had said when they started coming for me, just to show the absurdity of this. I had said on Piers Morgan that Israel was losing the PR war, that they had lost the Democrats and the independents and were starting to lose the Republican Party in America, and it was time to wrap it up, which was a quote from Donald Trump, who had said it.
Yep. And it's true, because it's the truth. Now, of course, Donald Trump can say that and still dick ride Israel into oblivion, doing fucking throat goat gymnastics on Israel's penis, as he has been, and he will continue to do so. Okay? That's it. And what I don't understand is how these fucking morons on the right, cannot figure that part out, How can you be like, I hate Israel, is the worst country. Oh my God, they're doing a genocide. I'm so mad. Or even if you hate Israel for Jewish reasons, right? Because like it's a Jewish nation state, fuck them, whatever. No matter which way it is, no matter how much you are frustrated with Israel, what I don't understand is how the fuck are you not mad at Trump? Because I hate Israel and I hated what Biden was doing. Obviously, I didn't have a cult-like leadership loyalty to Joe Biden regardless, but it certainly didn't help. How the fuck do people not realize that this administration is so far up Israel's ass? Also, who had that fucking 3-minute streamable link on the landlord's clip, by the way? Someone was talking about it before earlier and I didn't click on it. Lil F, not gonna lie, I don't see it on my end, but perhaps little F's are happening. Oh, you got it? Thank you. Thank you. Wait, that's the short version. There's a longer version of it, no? Isn't there a longer version of it? Like there's like a 3-minute version of it as well that shows the additional context, I thought.
A year earlier when he was still a candidate. Time to wrap it up. That's what I said about Israel. And then at Turning Point at the Student Action Summit with Charlie, we talked all about Epstein in my appearance there. It was all about Pam Bondi, frankly.
Right.
And we talked about whether he might possibly be an asset for someone. And I said he might be. And Israel, yeah, would make sense to me. Didn't know, but that's one of the things we should consider and look at. And that will conclude the list of things I said about Israel. That after 2 years of going on the air and defending them every week, turned some weird crowd into, she's an anti-Semite. So, I mean, F these people, because it's a lie. It was even more of a lie about Charlie, who had said even less than me. He had said nothing, like absolutely nothing. And they use those terms about him because he was on the other side of me when we had that discussion, and because he hosted you, and because he had the nerve to...
I'm gonna keep it $1.50. It's because this is the reality. It's because they are fascist, okay? And they have a formative opinion that revolves around ethnic and religious superiority, and they're fucking racist. It's very difficult to comprehend this when you look at it with an American lens, because Jewish history is exactly the opposite of that kind of sentiment. It's the complete opposite of that sentiment. It's centuries of being dominated, being singled out to be the primary villain, unjustly being cast aside, experiencing pogroms, right? But Zionism is a fascist ideology that revolves around ethno-religious supremacy, okay? And therefore, Zionists will carry that level of arrogance to their conversations with those in the fucking out group, okay? It's that simple. Thank you. I got the link from Merv XA. This is another part of the reason why I get so fucking annoyed with fascists. That fascists both on the pro-Israel side, the Zionist side, and fascists on the anti-Israel, neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic side. Okay? Because it's just untrue that Judaism as a religion has been propped up as with values of ethno-religious supremacy. No group is a monolithic force in general. It is fucking stupid. What? Amala Ekpanobi just posted a video about you. What the fuck? I don't care who that is. Why? Why are you especially pairing me up with Destiny? Jesus Christ. Why do you guys have to consistently send me random ass people online that are fucking farming your attention? Please stop.
Invite Dave Smith in a debate because he allowed one side to be represented and he had the Israel side fully represented too. So this was just such an unfair accusation. And I don't know why these very ardent advocates don't accept friendship when you offer it, when you've proven that you are genuinely a friend. I've said openly, Tucker, I don't want to debate. I'm on their side. There's no reason to put somebody on this show so they can convince me that Israel's right. I'm on their side. I agree with that. But in response to those comments, and then ultimately having Marjorie Taylor Greene on where we criticized AIPAC, I mean, who defends a lobbyist group? They treated me like I was Mehdi Hassan. Not everybody, but like the loudest Israel defenders. And to turn around and call Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite is such a disgusting smear. And you're right, he's young. He was young and wasn't used to being attacked like that by people who supported him and people whose donations are actually really important to the ongoing existence of his organization. And it took a lot for him to say no to them. And it took a lot for him to be honest about the fact that his opinions had evolved. And let's face it, Charlie was like an unofficial spokesperson for the youth of America, in particular, conservative youth. And I don't know if people have checked, but they no longer support Israel. And everybody under 30 is against Israel. Charlie was 31. And so as a friend, he's saying to them, as same way I, as a friend, am saying, I am telling you, you've lost Dems, independents, and you're starting to lose Republicans.
Like, in some ways, I feel like cynical grifters and charlatans aside, in some ways, I do feel as though these people are also trying to save the Republican Party to a certain degree, where they also recognize that this is untenable. The unlimited support to Israel is untenable. They're obviously saved by the fact that the Democrats are completely unable, Democrats' complete inability to capture the attention of broader audiences by presenting themselves, even on a partisan basis, as anti-Israel advocates. So when both parties are pro-Israel unconditionally, it doesn't really make too much difference. It just creates more discontent in the base for both parties. But Megyn Kelly is like very clearly trying to, just like Tucker Carlson, just like all these fucking people, is very clearly trying to continue capturing the attention of younger audiences in an effort to not lose complete control over their influence networks. Because for many people, I mean, here it is. This is Gumby also posting this. Kirk's target audience was college-age kids as well as slightly older Gen Z, for whom Israel is overwhelmingly unpopular. I'm sure these numbers are slightly higher for conservatives, but he would have been insane not to have put some distance between himself and Israel. And I obviously agree with this Matthew Petty take as well. I could honestly see a scenario where Charlie Kirk was signaling to anti-Israel conservatives that there was some room for them as loyal opposition. This freaked out the pro-Israel backers who demand 100% alignment, and that created the appearance of a split. Color me a lot more skeptical that Kirk was disgusted by Netanyahu and also secretly converting to the Catholic Church. So do you think that that's why they killed him? No. You know what's really funny about this is that there is a version of this within liberal Zionism and ultra Zionism, right? Liberal Zionists are trying to take control over the narrative so they can actually salvage the reputation of Israel in the Western world, whereas most of Israeli society has completely dropped that, and they're just like, fuck you. What are you talking about? You're a pussy. You're a Hamas lover. You're a Palestinian lover. You're an Arab lover. Get the fuck out of here. It's my way or the highway. Anyway, this is precisely what I said in the immediate aftermath of the discourse moving in that direction.
What happens, what's going on here with Candace, Bibi Netanyahu, and Bill Ackman, because it kind of leads up to something that happened between Charlie and me on this show about a month ago, August 6th. Okay, and the audience experienced this with me, so I'm just going to set up what's happening so everybody understands. Bibi Netanyahu went on Fox News on September 11th, the day after Charlie was shot, and commented on the loss of the man he said was his friend. And here's that in SOT 1 in part.
Was an extraordinary friend. He said, he wrote me a letter on May 2nd this year. He said, one of my greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances to defend Judeo-Christian civilization.
Like, I'm going to keep it $150. This attitude is also inviting a lot more suspicion. Like, these motherfuckers, just like everybody else, immediately turned around and made Charlie Kirk's assassination all about whatever their pet project was. Obviously, for Bibi, his pet project is genocide and the continued support of the American government, even if the entirety of the American population is anti-Israel, right? But like, when he came out and like made multiple statements and really highlighted how much Charlie Kirk was a friend to Israel, it obviously invited even more suspicion because people fucking hate Benjamin Netanyahu and people hate Israel too. So then they were like, that's weird. It's a weird thing that you're doing right now. Why are you doing that? Don't you have a fucking genocide that you're busy with right now? What the fuck is this?
A few weeks before the tragedy yesterday, I called him and I spoke to him and I said, please come to Israel. I invited him to Israel. And sadly, that visit will not take place. But he was a defender of our common Judeo-Christian civilization. He was unbelievably excited to walk in the footsteps of Jesus here. He valued our bond, the bond between America and Israel.
Okay, so Candace, who's been critical of Israel in this conflict, did not appreciate.
Charlie, have any opinions on Christian being spat on? Come on, big dog. You already know how it is, okay? We know. Remember that combo that took place? Remember that fucking combo that took place between, what is it, Officer Tatum or whatever, and Benjamin Netanyahu, where the guy was like, yeah, I mean, there was only one spitting incident, so I'd say it was pretty good. People think it's overblown, this notion that, like, Israeli society broadly fucking hates or disrespects Christianity and Christians. Like, there was only one spit. Only one spit today, big man. And by the way, Candace is still on this shit with 227,000 people watching, which leads me to believe that perhaps she's farming it a little bit, okay? I'm going to keep it $150. Because I feel like if this was a big investigation, she would be leaking the text messages, no?
Dangerous. Charlie Kirk, an anti-Semite. Yeah. He was not an anti-Semite. He was the opposite, and he was not dangerous.
Yeah, the major irony here is that a lot of these conspiracies would have been put to bed if I were able to talk to Charlie Kirk and fucking debate him on the issue of Israel, specifically from the perspective of the Gen Z, which is why I'm so fucking mad about this narrative that's like exploded about Charlie Kirk turning on Israel any day now. Like that was my fucking point. That was the argument. That was the wedge that I was going to use to separate the administration from the base of support.
Most important issue to me.
So fucking
I can talk about. I don't need to come to Turning Point. I can take a year off, no problem. I hated seeing how much he was suffering, the hassle he was getting from people, and I was being attacked too. By the way, it was a huge effort. I wasn't fully aware of it actually because I don't go online that much, but there was a huge effort by people, some of whom I know and have helped, and like Seth Dillon.
Who did you tell?
B,
what do you
example.
mean? It was very
Someone
obvious that we were going to be
with
fucking talking about
free speech
Israel.
was
The entire
canceled.
thing was like Gen Z
I
focused.
like Seth Dillon. I had him on a couple of times. I had dinner with him to show support. Seth Dillon was out there demanding that Charlie Kirk take me off the roster, pull me off stage, because I had said things that Bibi didn't like or that he didn't like or whatever. Shocking that someone whose whole persona is wrapped up in the idea that we all get to speak, and if you don't like it, make a more compelling case, that person and many others like him were advocating for me getting pulled off the stage because they don't like what I'm saying. This is a trend, and one that we should be really concerned about. It's not just about Israel, by the way, at all. The trend is really simple. People with power don't want to hear disagreement. They don't want to be challenged, ever. That's why we have free speech, to acknowledge that even those of us or people with less power still have a right to talk because they're human beings. You don't own them. So time after time, Charlie would call me or come to see me and let me know, wow, or show me text messages. These people are really mad that you're speaking. And I would always have the same thought, like, I feel pretty moderate, actually. I've never been an Israel hater. Obviously, I'm not an anti-Semite. I just don't want more wars, and I don't want a foreign country humiliating my country and telling us what our laws have to be. I mean, this seems like pretty basic America First stuff, and he would say, I totally agree with you, but they want you off the stage. And I would always say, no problem. And he would say, no, it's important. It's a matter of principle. I want you to be there. Great. By the way, I'm not accusing anyone of
Candace
being involved in
XQC
that
React
murder.
channel era? Yes.
Mutter darkly or imply anything.
Chatters.
There's a lot we don't know.
While this
about
is
who-
irrelevant to us in the grand scheme of things, understand that this is a very relevant fissure within the base of support for a lot of Republicans, okay? She has 231,000 people watching, going over Tucker Carlson's commentary. She literally had 7 million people in the first day of her Charlie Kirk was assassinated by Israel conspiracy theory. This is it. This is what the conservatives are talking about. We can watch a million fucking Ben Shapiro videos. It's got no motion.
Pressuring, threatening, intimidating Charlie to then flip in 1 second after he dies and say, pretend it never happened, like they were just great friends. That's weird to me. It's very weird to me. We wouldn't be here if they didn't do that. They could have said anything, by the way. Like, Josh Hammer, I know how you were messaging him. Like, release the messages, buddy. Just release all of your threads with Charlie in the 48 hours leading up to his death, okay? Let people see it. They did it at first regarding me last year. They insisted. And I said, Charlie, I couldn't even come up for air.
Why aren't they calling out Laura Loomer, who already released the messages and her discontent for Charlie Kirk? This is another thing that actually invites scrutiny from my perspective to the commentary that they're engaging in. Not a single one of these people is actually shitting on Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer is a major advocate for Israel. She is a massive Islamophobe. So why the fuck are they not talking about Laura Loomer that much? Is it perhaps because she is seen as an insider and has a lot closer of a relationship with Donald Trump than these people do? Is that the reason why they're afraid of touching the Laura Loomer angle here?
Then became the fastest people to try to eulogize him and to say, look no further. He effectively died for Bibi Netanyahu. It's wrong, and we have to stand up to that narrative. Matt Gaetz jumped into the ring and basically just doubled down on what Tucker Carlson said. He tweeted this. I have personal knowledge.
Now you're grasping at straws here. Nah, man. If I was in Candace Owens' shoes, okay, I would 100% tackle the narrative from the perspective of Laura Loomer. And the reason why I would call her out a lot more instead of like going after Bill A. Packman, I'll go after Laura Loomer a lot more. Why? Because she's crazy. And she is willing to just openly fucking say shit, okay? She has no self-restraint whatsoever.
I really regret my last correspondence. And then I would have been like, okay, that was really authentic and real. Instead, they were like, we had a wonderful time. I just wasn't, what? Oh, love Charlie. Just loved him so much. Something is weird about that. Spiritually, it's evil. That's what it is. It's evil. And in case you needed any more, another person to tell you that he was being intimidated and they were bullying him about who he could speak to. Here is Megyn Kelly. She joined Tucker Carlson and she says this very quickly. Take a listen.
Charlie is not the only one who's been threatened or was threatened to cut ties with you or not platform you. I too have gotten that, especially since you've been more outspoken on Israel. And I couldn't care less the amount of pressure they put on. I'm like, what are you talking about? Yeah. This is madness. Why would you want to silence such a powerful, important voice just because you disagree with them on one subject, one on which we've all watched you sincerely evolve as you grapple with principles you've been espousing for years, like America First, like what's happening to Christians, like what's best for us and our kids here? How do I keep them safe? That's my number one priority. And I've been just absolutely disgusted and recoiled from people who have tried to pressure me on it. It, of course, never happened. But I know from speaking to Charlie, he felt it too. You've heard it from Charlie that he felt, and there is a layer here of nefarious pressure to have certain narratives go only one way.
Yes.
That must be called out and must be fought.
Love that. Like, Megyn, that was amazing. Thank you. I think all of us right now are just feeling we have to speak. Okay. So if you know something about what was going on, if you have something, send it all to me because I'm organizing. Okay. I'm getting a lot of tips. By the way, many of you guys spoke about the individual who very quickly, I think 4 minutes after Charlie was shot, went and took the camera down and moved his chair and stood up and took the camera down like literally 4 or 5 minutes after he was shot. I want to let you know I was able to figure out who that person was because I recognized one of the individuals and I reached out to that individual and I said, you know, I've known you for a long time and I would like to see the footage. I would like to see the footage and I think the world would trust me. If there's nothing weird that happened on that day and there's about 4 or 5 cameras on that day, I'm not going to publish the footage, but I want to see it with my own 2 eyes so I can stand on this platform, so I can sit here on this platform and I can say to the world, no funny business happened. Truly, we can all go home. It was Tyler Robinson and he acted alone and there was nobody else there. And this kid just, I guess, after having a life where he didn't bother anybody, just woke up one day and chose violence and then decided to explain every layer of what he had done that day via text messages. I want to be able to look people in the eye honestly and say that. So I want to see all of his footage. So I am working to get to the bottom of it. Okay. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories floating in about the security guard and people thinking he was making gestures. I know that security person. He's a good guy. It would shock me. I usually get a vibe about somebody. Not that guy. Not the guy that they say he's like rolling up. He tends to do that, roll up his sleeves. I don't buy that one. Okay. I don't buy that one. And, but here's the thing. That's my gut. My gut has led me in the right way. But I want you guys to know that once I look at all the footage from every angle, if I'm putting in this formal request and they said they would speak to the lawyers, I think the world will trust me to say there was no funny business and this is exactly what happened. So I've put in that request and I want you guys to know that. And I mean business. I'm getting to the bottom of this. And lastly, I want to say to this like new flex operation mocking pastor, regarding which, by the way, the first time they went after Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, a source told me, and I would love to get this confirmed, I'm going to find this out, that $150 million
A woman's
was spent
intuition
on that,
is special. I
and it came
trust
from
her.
Bibi Netanyahu. I would like to figure out if that's true. But anyways, obviously investigating this, and I'm not going to let it go, okay? You're not going to emotionally use some jujitsu, and I'm referring here to Roy or Rob McCoy, who says, I'm Charlie's pastor, and here's the truth, or whatever it is, to look the other way right now, okay? You're not going to tell me that I have to feel too bad to investigate who shot my friend in front of my face. So stop the nonsense. This is what Charlie's pastor passed around to all of the people that were intimidating Charlie leading up to his death.
I'm not Mr. I'm noticing dog whistles here type person, but low key, like she hit the hard Jew on that jujitsu.
Our lies. No, he didn't find his voice saying anything about Bibi Netanyahu. Candace investigating things? Yeah, that's got to stop. Here's what he wrote. Okay, what's his name? Rob McCoy. He wrote, Charlie Kirk was my friend and I was his pastor. I want to simply say this regarding Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was a friend to Candace and never publicly spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. He never operated nor entertained gossip or innuendo concerning Candace. My only comment I offer regarding Candace is this. I only wish at this tragic time of mourning, she would be the friend to Charlie Kirk that he was to her. He would never have treated Candace or her family in such a way had, God forbid, this tragedy been hers. A friend loves at all times, and he drops a biblical proverb. Now, let me say this, okay? I hope that Charlie would have been the sort of friend that I'm being, okay? He would have never, why? Why wouldn't Charlie Kirk have investigated if I had been killed and we were being so obviously lied to? I think you're wrong. I think Charlie was a real friend and he would not have dropped it. He would not have let it go, least of all because he was being emotionally manipulated by a guy who curiously kept his mouth shut when Bibi lied. You knew, if you were really his close friend and pastor, how he was feeling about Bibi Netanyahu. You knew, if you're his close friend and pastor, exactly the names of everybody who was intimidating him and how poorly they are misrepresenting the things that he believed. So why don't you focus on being more honest as a pastor and giving as much information as you can possibly provide so that we can continue this investigation? If you can't do this, I'm going to have to ask for your silence, okay? Be quiet. I mean that. Nobody is going to stop me from investigating what happened to Charlie Kirk, because it feels to me, okay, that this is a conspiracy, a federal level conspiracy, which means that there's going to be somebody else, so maybe somebody close to Charlie that could be involved in this, right? And when I am satisfied that there is no conspiracy, I will communicate that. But at the moment, no, I am feeling the exact opposite. I don't trust anybody. There's a lot more information that I wish I could share, but I'm going to tell you guys, it's going to get uglier. And these absolute demons are trying to justify saying you shouldn't investigate until the funeral, until the state funeral, until, as I have heard, people are trying to buy their way. Okay. I've given this much money. I want to say some remarks about Charlie Kirk. Okay. Stop. Okay. Just stop. A real friend would investigate someone's murder. And they would not stop until they felt good about the resolution and the answers that they were given. And I'll let you know when that is, Pastor. Okay? All right. Before I get into some of your comments and see what you guys are thinking about all of this, I want to remind you about the Wellness Company, because you may have.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. She's fucking farming that shit, bro. This seems too good to be true, but I think Israel will be more fucked because of this. Yes, bro. Yes. I've said this already. lying is OP. That's number one. Lying is motherfucking OP. Okay? Number two, conservatives especially, but liberals too, but certainly conservatives are way more malleable to misinformation and false narratives and like grand conspiracies than critical thinking. And that is precisely the reason why this is the possible worst thing. I can totally see unironic pro-Israel people like Deborah's and Barbara's that were pro-Israel until this very moment. People who tune into the Candace Owens broadcast and go, oh my God, I cannot believe that Israel did this 100%. I love Charlie Kirk and Israel killed my Charlie. I can totally fucking see people developing resentment towards the state of Israel off of this shit, which is so crazy. I guess you gotta take it whichever way you can, right? I don't know. Yeah, look, wrote about the Israeli rights rush to weaponize Charlie Kirk's assassination, casting them as a martyr in its anti-left, anti-Muslim, Judeo-Christian battle. Violence is the right's natural currency, whether as perpetrator or as victims.
That is why they took him out. That is your theory that you are presenting there, Mia. And I will say this. It's like Tucker said, to have so many donors. What I do know is the donors became very rotten at the end. He relied on his donors. They were making threats. Some of them, up until the very last minute, were making threats against him. Financial threats, I'm referring to, obviously. Some people are lying and saying that I said this donor tried to kill him, or it's so ridiculous. Financial threats, that's a threat, okay? That is a threat. Michelle E. writes, you and Charlie are both so inspiring and have taught me a lot. I think it's amazing what you are continuing to do for Charlie. God bless you and God bless Charlie. Love and prayers from Scotland. Also, thank you guys. I see you defending me when people are lying and saying that I said stuff that I didn't say. You know, their new thing that went around is today I woke up and like all of like Bill Ackman's cronies were like, would you like to comment? The New York Post would like to, I said literally, New York Post, you guys are just feds. And I don't really feel like commenting. I don't care. The people are awake. We are awake. Okay, we see what is happening and you're not going to distract me. Write your stupid articles. Call me whatever you need to call me. People are listening and they can hear the words that are coming out of my mouth, okay? The entire world needs to wake up right now. And I believe that Charlie Kirk's murder has provided us an opportunity to do so, to stop with the left and right BS and to focus on the people that actually hate us and rule over us at the same time. Scott writes, what is your view on the questioner on trans violence? The questioner on trans violence. Did you watch his remorse video? I was not convinced. I believe.
Okay, she's taking in call-ins at this point. I kind of ship you and Candace. I don't know why, but I can see you vibing. Y'all are fucking nutty, dude. Oh my God. Candace Owens is one of the most relentless voices of white supremacy in the United States of America. Hassan's chat figuring out what we feel when they say they're woke. What? Like, there's just no fucking agreement on anything. Also, Tommy Vitor has a really good take on this as well. Very curious if Netanyahu realized how angry he made large swaths of the MAGA world at his gross attempt to hijack the memory of Charlie Kirk. It was a huge unforced error that did real damage. Fucking Roger Stone talking about it too. There's also shit like this. It's scary seeing this kind of sentiment reach this kind of virality. Yeah. Stu Peters, who is a literal anti-Semitic, fascist, neo-Nazi, white supremacist, all that good stuff, says, Israel assassinated Charlie Kirk and now the Jews have literally overtaken his show. Like, they are the people that are using this as an opportunity to farm more like Israel discontent are not holding back. Like, they are just going crazy mode with it. And the reality of the matter is a lot of the people that are pro-Israel pro-Israel on the right, have over the course of the last year or two have lost all of their motion. It is not an accident. Okay? It is not a fucking accident. I said this before. This is unironically something that I think Charlie Kirk also recognized, which is precisely why he was just like desperately trying to hold on to some kind of like loyalty pledge for Republicans that are anti-Israel. And it's also ironically what is causing even more discontent amongst the base. For a lot of Americans, critical examination from a materialist perspective on America's foreign policy ambitions with Israel is far too difficult to fathom. You know what's much easier? Saying it's the Jews, okay? For the past 2 years, I have actively and desperately tried to show everyone I can the truth, knowing full well that Americans are much easier, Americans can go along and get on board with a conspiracy about all of this happening because of Jews. Jews are a monolithic force, and all of this is happening because Jews have hypnotized America or whatever. Little old American politicians getting duped by Jewish hypnosis, and that's the reason, or Jewish blackmail, and that's the reason, this or that. It doesn't require critical thinking. It actually corresponds to preconceived notions that already exist out there. You can also point to certain things like you can invoke suspicion off of pointing certain things like, oh, well, look at how many Jews are in Hollywood. You know what I mean? That sort of shit. And if someone already has this notion in their minds, like the perspective that, like, you know, the unrealized, unexamined notion that like Jews control the media is seen as an innocuous statement in many parts of this country, and then they see all of the fucking Israel dick riders being like, we're doing this for Jews, we're doing this for Judaism. How dare you criticize us? You're criticizing Jews. You're an anti-Semite. You need to get deplatformed. What the fuck is the expectation? What is the expectation from the average American? You think they're going to look at all of that? You think they're going to look at that and be like, well, you know what? I'm going to dig deep here and assume that actually the real reason why all this is happening is because our politicians don't care about us, and they would rather extract as much natural resources from all around the world and control and dominate entire swaths of the population in a resource-rich regions such as the Middle East by basically using a settler colonial operation such as Israel to do so as easily as possible. You think that's what they're going to think? You think that's the reason? No, they're going to go, oh, Jews, I knew that they controlled the media, and here it is, they control the government. Okay? That's it. It's much harder to convince people. It's much harder to convince people of the truth, especially when there are no honest people that are being highlighted in this process. And a lot of these like fucking idiotic advocacy movements are way too predisposed with coming after people like myself. They're fucking stupid. So, you know, you did this, all right? You designed this. You designed this future for yourself.